This is Townsquare Sunday on 1420 WBSM, the place where people come together to talk about the good things happening in and around New Bedford.
Come together right now. Oh.
And now, the moderator of Townsquare Sunday, Jim Phillips.
Good morning, this is Townsquare Sunday. I'm Jim Phillips. We've talked a lot on this program about the homeless, especially in the city of New Bedford. It's a very sad and sometimes complex situation. In fact, most times it's complex. And it becomes even more difficult when there are homeless children involved. And that's where Horizons for Homeless Children comes in. Joining me this morning is Megan Schaefer, the Southeastern Massachusetts representative for Horizons for Homeless Children. Welcome.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you for having me.
Well, for those who may not know what Horizons for Homeless Children is, tell us about it.
Horizons for Homeless Children is one of the sole organizations in Massachusetts that is focused on supporting young children experiencing homelessness. We do this through early education centers, play spaces or playrooms we put in homeless shelters around Massachusetts, and family support services for the parents of the children that we serve.
How long have you been in business?
We have been around. This is our 30th year we're actually celebrating this year. So it's our 30th anniversary since 1988.
I have to confess, I've seen your public service announcements on Celtics games.
Wonderful. I'm glad they're getting out there.
Oh, they are. But I didn't know that Horizons for Homeless Children has a presence here in southeastern Massachusetts.
Yeah, that's something we often have to combat. That a lot of people, when they think of us and they think of homelessness, they think of the bigger cities, Boston, Worcester, Springfield. But I actually work completely here in southeastern Massachusetts and Cape Cod. So I oversee 14 communities of family shelters that we partner with to support the children, including right here in New Bedford and Fall River.
Okay. We're going to talk about volunteers, but the staff for those playrooms and early education, that's volunteer for the most part. Is that right?
So all of our playrooms are staffed fully by volunteers, and our early education centers, which are located in the Boston area, those are supported by full-time staff.
Wow. Okay. Look, we all know about the homeless problem. We've talked about it numerous times on this program. But it's staggering when you think about when you add the children into that mix. I read on your website that the organization serves 1,600 homeless kids a year. That is just a fraction of the number of homeless children in Massachusetts.
It is. In fact, a recent study came out that over 18,000 children just under the age of 6 were homeless in Massachusetts in a year. Think about that. We were talking Celtics, so the TD Garden. You could more than fill the TD Garden with infants, toddlers, and preschoolers in Massachusetts who experienced homelessness. That's a tough picture to visualize.
That's right. That is astounding. But you serve about 1,600 kids a year statewide, your organization. So you talked about a number of services. Just elaborate a little bit about what playrooms are and the other thing, the other three pillars, if you will.
Absolutely. So our early education centers serve 175 children each week in Dorchester, Jamaica Plain, and Roxbury, are where our 3 centers are located. And they specifically serve children experiencing homelessness living in shelter through quality early education, through services that are based around a trauma-informed, strengths-based approach to really help the children gain life skills to be ready for their educational experience when they go into the school system. And then we have family advocates who support the parents of these children through setting life goals and being able to meet those goals and support their entire family by getting back on their feet faster. I am part of the Play Space program, which is our statewide leg of the agency. We are in 94 homeless shelters across the state. We design and install trauma and build playrooms in the shelters where children can come for 2 hours a week, the same day and same time each week throughout the week, to be able to just be a kid, to be able to do Play-Doh and bubbles and throw a ball around and all those things that should be a part of childhood but aren't necessarily when you're living in a shelter environment. Right. And they are trained by I train and manage and support wonderful volunteers who go into those shifts to build wonderful relationships with those children and really help them to have a bright future ahead of them.
Now, I'm glad you mentioned the volunteers. That leads into my next question here. you sent out a release this week where you were looking for volunteers. How many volunteers do you have statewide, and how many do you have here in Greater New Bedford, Fall River?
Absolutely. So across the state, we have over 1,000 volunteers who help support the children that we serve across the state. Here in New Bedford and Fall River, we have about 10 volunteers here in New Bedford at our shelter we support here, and we have about another 10 at our shelter in Fall River, though we have need for many more to support all the children we want to support at those programs.
How important are those volunteers to the overall program? I imagine you're like most nonprofits. You have a staff, but it's not a large staff because that's just the way the world goes these days.
Absolutely. We work off the goodness of others.
That's right. And but your volunteers, they are very important.
They are the key to what we do. Our volunteers make us at least 6-month commitment to us to go in each and every week to provide that healing play opportunity for those children. And I come from the Southeast region, is staffed by just 2 people. We serve 20 shelters here. We manage over 250 volunteers serving 400 kids each week just here in southeastern Mass and Cape Cod. So our volunteers are critical to being able to serve those 400 kids we serve throughout the southeast area. And they come from all walks of life. They are average people. We work with everyone from college students to working people to retirees who just want a chance to be around kids a little bit more.
So what's like the ratio of volunteers to youngsters? Some people care a lot about that.
Absolutely. So this is not a one-on-one experience, but we try and make it a very small, manageable experience. So we have small ratios of 1 volunteer for every 2 infants or toddlers, 1 volunteer for every 3 preschoolers, and 1 volunteer for every 5 school-age kids. But our number 1 rule, of course, is that you're never alone with kids. So we always have a minimum of 2 volunteers on a shift, and usually more like 4 or 5 volunteers on a shift with about 10 children.
And, of course, the volunteers are trained. They're also, I'm sure, checked out. They have to be quarried.
Absolutely, yes. All of our volunteers, they will fill out an application for us. They will go through a 3-hour training to learn about our program and how to support the children. And we will do a background check, a sexual offender check, and a reference check to make sure that they're the awesome people we need to be with the kids.
All right. So how does one go about being a volunteer? Where do you, okay, I want to be a volunteer. Where do you start?
Absolutely. So the way to get started is to connect with either our website, horizonschildren.org. We have fabulous videos where you can see our program in action. And in our PALS section of the website, which is what we call our volunteers, place-based activity leaders, you can fill out an online application to be able to sign up for one of our trainings and get involved in the program. But if you just have questions and just want to know more about it, you can always just visit our website or call us at 508-510-3250 and just talk to someone about the experience and really get to understand what you're going to be doing.
And it's a worthwhile way to spend some time, especially for retirees or people who may have some time, work a night shift, for instance, and you have some time during the day, you could do this. Absolutely.
And we have volunteer shifts that happen throughout the week. We have some evening shifts that happen after work hours, so like 6 to 8 o'clock at night. So if you're a full-time working person, you can do it after days of work. And a lot of our working volunteers say it's the highlight of their week. You go to a full day at work, you might have a tough day at work, and then after work, you get to play for a couple hours. And not only is that healing for the kids, that's just healing for us as human beings. To be able to put some Play-Doh through your hands or be able to read a storybook or do a puzzle is such a great way to end a day. But we also have some morning shifts, too, for those who need more of a daytime experience. A lot of our retirees like that type of a schedule. We have morning shifts where you can also have a great impact on our youngest players, our infants, toddlers, and preschoolers.
Yeah. You haven't identified where these play stations are. Is there a reason for that? There is. So we really want to respect the privacy and the dignity of the families that we serve. The kids that we serve in our program go to our local school system. They are families. They are people living here with us. And a lot of our families don't want to be identified from the stigma of homelessness, but also for the kids, that's really hard if you realize the school bus is dropping you off at a place that's a shelter. So out of the respect and dignity of them, we keep the locations confidential until our volunteers have gone through that training and that background check to make sure they really understand the importance of why confidentiality is to help support and respect the families that we get to work with. You're listening to Townsquare Sunday. I'm Jim Phillips, and my guest is Megan Schaefer. She's the Southeastern Mass representative for Horizons for Homeless Children. How big is this problem on the South Coast? We've heard 1,600 kids you serve, maybe 18,000 homeless children in one way or another in Massachusetts. That's a huge number. What do you see in your day-to-day?
Yeah, and it's unfortunately the challenge of it is it's not a number that's declining. Over the past since 2007, the number of families in Massachusetts alone that has increased for experiencing homelessness by 294%. It's a problem that's growing, and it's especially families are the fastest growing segment of the homeless population. You know, a lot of us picture the individual person on the street experiencing homelessness. You know, we picture the man or woman standing with a cardboard sign asking for money, and that's what a lot of us equate with homelessness. But there are a faster growing segment of single mothers with children. The average homeless family is headed by a single mother, usually with 2 preschool children. And it's a number that is growing and increasing. And so it's a number that, as you said at the beginning, is a complex number that comes from many different reasons. A lot of our families come to us because, you know, they just had an unexpected medical bill. And they were doing fine making ends meet. But once you get a medical bill that you don't expect, all of a sudden you can't pay rent. And when you can't pay rent, you can't stay there. And it leads to a lot of challenging issues around homelessness. Some of our families are fleeing unsafe situations due to domestic violence. Some of our families are just experiencing divorce, and when you had a 2-income household affording our high rents, and all of a sudden half that income is gone, it's just hard to make it work in today's day and age.
There's no question about that. So how are youngsters, are they referred to you? Do they just walk in? Who are the people who refer? Is it police? Is it schools? Maybe it's all of that.
Yeah, it's a great question. So families experiencing homelessness, when they enter the system, they enter through what's called the Department of Transitional Assistance Office. There's one in many of the states around Massachusetts, including here in New Bedford. And the families go in and they talk about what they're experiencing, what their income is if they have any, why they need help and assistance. And then from there, that organization from the state places them in shelters around the state. Family shelters that are set up around the state that have been in place since 1983, when we actually were the only state in the country to pass what's called the Right to Shelter Act, which means that if you are experiencing homelessness and you have a child in your family, you will never be on the streets, which is why we don't realize this is such a big an issue, because their families are in shelters and we're helping to support them so that children will never have to live on the street. And I'm proud to be part of a state that realizes the importance of such an act.
As am I, because perhaps not every state has something like that.
Absolutely.
So how can the average person help out Horizons for Homeless Children? What can all of us do? You can certainly volunteer. I know you're looking for volunteers, as you've mentioned. But what can the average person do?
The average person can do a few things. First of all, you can support us. Of course, I won't lie, money is how we do what we do, as many organizations do. Supporting us monetarily is always wonderful. We have ways to give by just giving, $5 a month, if that's what your ability is, up to ways to donate things to help us with the materials we need to stock the play spaces. If the children really speak to you, we have an online wish list that has our current needs for toys and cleaning materials and donations at our website so that you can understand exactly what our immediate needs are. A lot of people love to do things like toy drives, like we always need more Play-Doh. We should find stock in Play-Doh, I swear. But a lot of things that we go through by working with children that really help and support us by donating these real in-kind donation items. The other thing you can really do is let people know this is an issue that exists and it's in our community. A lot of people don't realize homeless children exist here. So just by you telling your friends and your family and your coworkers, and especially your state legislators, that this is an issue you care about, we can do things to really change laws and impact the way these families are supported so that they can get back on their feet better and do more in the society that we want them to be a part of.
Again, Horizons for Homeless Children is looking for volunteers. Where can people go to sign up? Let's go through that again.
Yes, if you'd like to volunteer, we do have a training coming up next Saturday, April 6th, from 1 to 4 in Bourne at the Bourne Public Library. We have 30 trainings a year, so if that doesn't work for you, there's other ways. You can either visit horizonschildren.org/playspace, or you can email southeast@horizonschildren.org. Finally, 508-510-3250.
Those are always helpful to have people listen. Hopefully they'll feel the feel the energy to move and volunteer. And it's important, folks. This is, I think we've all learned a little something here. And we all read sometimes about homeless children who might be with families living out of cars. Those are very sad situations. But to hear the number is close to 18,000 per year, that is an astonishing number.
It is. It's a hard number. It means now that 1 in 24 children in our state will experience homelessness in their lifetime.
And that is a very sad thing. So there's organizations like Horizons for Homeless Children to help with that situation, where kids can feel like kids again and have a few hours of fun anyway a week. My thanks to Megan Schaefer of Horizons for Homeless Children. That's an agency that's doing some very important work throughout Massachusetts and right here, right in your backyard, folks, here in southeastern Massachusetts. Good luck with this.
Thank you so much.
All right. Megan Schaefer from Horizons for Homeless Children. Townsquare Sunday returns in just 1 minute.